Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're getting into something really fascinating, a YouTube transcript that talks about these concepts, the astral storm and the new man.
Yeah, really interesting stuff.
So our goal here, our mission for this deep dive, is basically to unpack these ideas. What do they mean? How do they change how we look at the world? And what's the role of this new man in, well, all the crises we seem to be facing?
Exactly. And the source itself, it kind of weaves together philosophy, psychology, societal observations. It's quite layered.
It really is. And there's that quote from Albert Einstein in the source that just feels perfect for this. Out of chaos find simplicity, from discord find harmony. Real sets the tone, I think.
Absolutely. It captures that idea of finding clarity, finding a framework within the apparent chaos instead of just feeling lost in it.
Precisely. That feeling of being overwhelmed, that's kind of what the source tackles head on with these concepts. So let's start there. This term astral storm, what are we actually talking about here?
Well, the astral storm, as the source puts it, is this intense convergence.
Yeah.
It's all the major crises hitting us now, political, ecological, economic, even existential ones.
So not just separate problems, but like
Right.
one big storm.
Exactly. A kind of unified turbulence that we're all experiencing together, whether we realize it fully or not.
Okay, that paints a pretty intense picture, very relatable, I think, for many listening.
Yeah.
So if we're in this storm, then the source introduces this figure, I guess, the new man. What's different about this person? It sounds like more than just coping.
Oh, definitely. It's a fundamental shift.
Yeah.
The new man isn't just surviving the storm. They perceive it differently. They see beyond the surface. They have this multi-dimensional view, aware of the visible stuff, yeah, but also the invisible forces shaping things.
Multi-dimensional. Okay.
Right. And they stay centered, even when things are chaotic. They understand the underlying structure, the sort of laws of the system, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And this is key. They act like an engineer of reality, not just someone being pushed around by it.
An engineer of reality. That's a powerful phrase.
It is. And it connects to that Carl Jung idea, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes.
Mm-hmm.
The focus for this new man has to be inward first. That's where the effective action comes from.
Okay, and this next bit feels really crucial in the source's argument. It says the reason for this astral storm, it's not just, I don't know, bad luck or external events piling up. It's deeper. It's in us.
Exactly. That's the core point. The root cause is identified as the lower consciousness of man, basically operating from an inferior, what it calls a psychological consciousness.
Lower consciousness, meaning?
Meaning we're often disinformed by our own programs. Think of it like mental software we've inherited. And we just obey these automatisms, automatic habits, reactions, thoughts, without really questioning them.
Programs we inherit, like from family or society.
Yes, often from generations back. They're running in the background, shaping how we see things, how we react, often totally unconsciously.
So these deep programs are running the show, almost. The source gives some examples, right? How this plays out between nations or groups, leading to conflict.
It does. It points to ideologies and beliefs in places like Russia or Iran, suggesting they operate based on these deeply ingrained, programmed ways of thinking. Even religious conflicts are framed this way, people acting out beliefs programmed over centuries.
Wow.
And what's fascinating, or maybe disturbing, is how this leads to disharmony, to war, because people are constantly disinformed by these programs. They identify with the thoughts these programs generate. They think, this is me thinking this, but actually it's the program running.
Believing the program is you. That's the trap.
That's the trap, precisely.
So, okay, if this lower consciousness, these programs, are the root problem driving the storm, what's the way out? The source talks about something pretty profound, this idea of the Messiah within. What does that mean? It sounds different.
It's a complete flip. The Messiah isn't coming from outside to save us. It's potentiality within each person. Awakening in this view means realizing you are the Messiah, in the sense that the change has to happen inside you first.
So the evolution is internal, creating harmony in yourself.
Yes. Harmony and peace of mind within yourself, which then naturally affects how you interact with others. The process involves, first, just seeing how automated you are, observing your own thought patterns, your reactions.
Watching them.
Watching them without judgment, and crucially, without identifying with them. Not thinking, oh, that negative thought, that's the real me. And it stresses this isn't just thinking about it. It takes practice. Real, consistent action and observation.
That really draws a line, doesn't it, between the let's say, psychological man who suffers from events because they're caught in these
Right,
beliefs,
they feel tossed around by everything physically and mentally.
versus the awakened person who observes, maybe even understands that sometimes humanity needs these shocks to wake up and isn't psychologically destroyed by them.
Exactly. For the awakened person, suffering isn't the end point. It can be information. It's the signal that something's out of alignment. The source even suggests people often need to suffer enough to realize their old ways of thinking just don't work, don't match reality.
It's a harsh feedback loop, but maybe a necessary one from that perspective.
That seems to be the implication.
And connecting this to the wider world, the source highlights a really dangerous mix happening right now. Old ways of thinking colliding with new technology.
Yes, it's described as a particularly volatile time. You have the old guard, these sort of primitive thought patterns,
Yeah.
the ancestral programs, clan thinking, not much individual freedom from those programs.
Just running dick.
Very deep, and that's crashing headlong into advanced communication technology.
Mm.
The source uses this powerful analogy. It's like giving matches to a child. They're going to burn the house down.
Oof. Yeah.
That's why current conflicts, and it mentions Iran, Israel, Russia again, are seen as so perilous. You have these ancient, often unconscious drivers being massively amplified by modern tech, spreading misinformation, inflaming divisions instantly, globally.
And the source mentions a great reset idea here, too, but not in the way maybe some listeners have heard it.
Right, it makes a point to clarify. It's not talking about some, shadowy conspiracy. It's framed more as a necessary cleanup, a kind of forced realization that humanity just cannot keep going like this, running on these old, disharmonious programs.
So the suffering itself forces the reset, in a way.
It acts as the catalyst. It forces an acknowledgement that the system as it's running now, based on these programs, is fundamentally unsustainable.
Okay, building on that idea of programs, this leads to maybe the most challenging concept in the source. This idea of humans as biological robots. What does that do to our idea of free will?
It's definitely provocative. The idea is that mostly we function automatically. We identify with our thoughts, our programs. We think we're originating everything consciously. But the source argues that identification is the illusion of free will.
Because the actions are actually driven by the programs.
Often, yes.
Right?
Pre-decided by the program. We're subjected to it, reacting like a robot would to its programming. But then it contrasts this with the new man's will.
How is that different, if it's not free will?
It's described not as psychological free will, like choosing between A and B based on preference, but as the will of intelligence. Once you understand the real mechanisms of reality, the source uses the example of gravity for building an airplane.
Right, you don't get to choose whether gravity exists.
Exactly. You understand it, and then you work with it. Once you see how things truly function, there's effectively no choice but to align your actions with that understanding. It's even called a fatality, not in a negative sense, but meaning once you see the truth of the mechanism, it compels a certain intelligent action.
So for the new man, it's less about what do I want to do and more about what does reality, what does intelligence require here. It's about alignment.
Precisely. True freedom, in this view, isn't doing whatever you feel like. It's adjusting to systemic reality, understanding the rules of the game, let's say, and playing accordingly. That's how you stop being just subjected to life's random-seeming events and your own automatisms. You start using the system consciously.
Now, a lot of people hearing about a new man might think, okay, this is the person who's going to fix everything, the hero, the savior. But the source is quite clear that's not the role.
Yes, that's a really important clarification. The new man is not presented as a savior. They don't run around trying to help everyone or convince everyone. That's not their function.
So what is their function?
Their role is to be deeply connected to concrete reality, to see the next necessary move based on that clear perception. The source gives the example of recognizing real danger and fleeing it, like if you lived in a conflict zone, seeing it clearly and getting out.
Practical action based on clear sight.
Yes, acting out of necessity, not out of some grand mission. It's about diffusing information gained from that deeper understanding, maybe helping others who are also becoming more conscious to survive, mentally and physically, creating a conducive environment for themselves and those aligned with reality.
And the source also talks about words. The power of words seems quite central here, too.
Definitely. Words are seen as the direct result of the thoughts we identify with, the thoughts we believe are us. So if you're identifying with programmed thoughts, your words just repeat those collective influences, those programs.
And speaking them reinforces the belief.
Exactly. It makes the program stronger, keeps you locked in. And interestingly, it warns against just trying to slap positive thinking on top of negative thoughts,
Why is that?
because that often just nourishes the whole system of polarity. It keeps you bouncing between good and bad, positive and negative, which is part of the trap of that psychological consciousness. Liberation, it suggests, comes more from absorbing the negative, observing the mechanisms behind events, understanding the systemic reality, not just trying to paint over it.
That makes sense. Don't fight the program head on with its opposite, but understand the whole mechanism.
Understand the mechanism, detach from identifying with the thoughts it produces.
So ultimately, the source is suggesting that the conflicts we see, they aren't really wars between people, fundamentally. They're wars of ideologies, wars of beliefs. And people are caught in the crossfire.
That's the stark conclusion, yes. It's a war of programs. Men and women are victims, programmed by these inherited beliefs and ideologies, acting them out, often without any real awareness that they are subjected to these automatisms. Until that awareness dawns, the cycle continues.
Wow. What a journey, this deep dive. We've really gone through it, this astral storm, the idea of the new man, the pretty challenging concept of the biological robot, and rethinking free will itself.
It's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
But that core message seems to be about this fundamental shift, right? Moving from living unconsciously, just run by these programs,
Right.
to conscious observation,
Yeah.
to aligning with how things actually work with systemic reality. And through that understanding, you start to use the system instead of just being used by it.
It really leaves you thinking. And maybe a final thought for everyone listening. If our deepest beliefs, maybe even our sense of free will, are so heavily shaped by programs passed down, perhaps unconsciously, what personal automatism, what automatic reaction or belief might you discover if you really started to observe the hidden mechanics inside your own mind?